I'm going to bring you up to date on the status of my freight car upgrades. That's coming right up. I'm Roy Smith. Glad you could join me today. I've been working on my older freight cars over the past few weeks. It's been slow going, but tons of fun. Today I'm going to show you what I've done so far. Hopefully, it will be helpful to you when you do the same thing on your layout. We're going over to Green River in a moment, and when we get there, I will show you my upgrade progress on a local freight train. First, though, let me mention, as always, that the purpose of doing these freight car upgrades is to make the cars run better and look more realistic. To make the upgrades, I began by adding weight to the older freight cars. I did this because most of them weighed less than half of the recommended NMRA weight. As a result, they derailed frequently and they wobbled when rolling along the track. Adding weight essentially eliminated these problems. I removed the Rapido couplers which came on the older freight cars. The fact is, decades ago, most N-scale rolling stock came with Rapido couplers. I selected Microtrains trucks with truck-mounted couplers to replace the old Rapido couplers. And I selected exact rail metal wheels to install in the trucks. We can talk about plastic versus metal wheels in an upcoming episode. For now, let's just say that I prefer to replace any plastic wheels I may have with metal ones. Before installing the Microtrains trucks on the cars, I weathered them and the metal wheels for each of the cars. I blackened the trip pins of those Microtrains couplers that weren't already blackened using a product called Neolube. To show you the difference this can make, a trip pin on one end of this boxcar is not yet blackened, and I have already blackened the trip pin on the other end. Blackened trip pins simulate air hoses. We can talk more about trip pins in an upcoming episode. I inserted the metal wheels in the trucks, and then I installed the trucks on each of the cars. In the case of this car, I didn't blacken the trip pins until after installing the trucks on the car. All right, as promised, let's go over to Green River and take a look at the cars that I've been working on. Green River, the main classification yard on my layout. To orient you, let me show you my track plan. Green River is outlined in the red box. The entire layout fills a spare bedroom measuring 10 feet by 12 feet. That's not a lot of space for a layout, even in N-scale. And here's a Google satellite view of the massive yard on the prototype that I am modeling. Obviously, Green River on my layout is a minimal representation of the prototype. It was the best I could do in the space I had for it. Here at Green River, I have pre-positioned all of the freight cars that will run in manifest trains, basically dividing them up according to the work I need to do on them. On the arrival-departure track, I have placed my newer freight cars. Most of these cars already have Microtrains trucks with truck-mounted couplers on them. I will need to replace any plastic wheels on these cars with metal wheels, and of course I will have to weather the trucks and wheels. On classification track 1, there is a bunch of newer box cars which also must have the wheels replaced. But in addition, I must remove the running boards, or roof walks as we sometimes call them, from these box cars. On classification track 2, there are a bunch of new cars that I was able to buy thanks to your donations via PayPal. Most of these cars also need to have their wheels and trucks weathered. Note that what you don't currently see here in the yard are those freight cars that will run in unit trains, whether they be covered hoppers, empty or loaded coal porters, and tank cars. You also don't see any of my intermodal cars, and you don't see any passenger cars for my Amtrak and excursion trains. For the moment, I have put all of those cars either in the primary staging yard under Green River or in the secondary staging yard over at Pocatello. For now, I'm not working on these cars in the staging yards. And back at Green River on classification track 3 is the local freight train that we came to see here today. It consists mostly of older cars, nearly all of which you gave me, and all of which I have already done some work on. Let's take a closer look at the trucks and wheels on the cars in this train. Of course, I still need to work on the bodies of the cars. I'm going to bring a car over to classification track 3 that I haven't worked on yet. A side-by-side comparison will allow you to see more clearly what a difference weathering the trucks and wheels can make, even in N scale. You can hardly see the trucks and wheels of the car on the left that I haven't worked on yet, while the trucks and wheels of the car on the right really stand out because they are weathered. Also note that I have blackened the trip pins of the car on the right, but I still haven't blackened the trip pins of the car on the left. Its trip pins still have their shiny, toy-like appearance. There are 3 more freight cars over here on the yard lead, along with an SD40-2. On my layout, SD40-2s do most of the yard work. I'm bringing the 3 cars from the yard lead over to classification track 3 to add them to the cars already sitting there. Adding those 3 cars gives us a train that is 19 cars long. On my layout, trains average 15 to 20 cars long, and most of my through freights are pulled by multiple unit lash-ups of 2 mainline diesels. The single Cato SD40-2 at the lead of this local freight can easily pull this many cars where the benchwork is flat, and I think that is mostly due to the metal wheels that I have installed on these cars. But here's what I really wanted to show you. The SD40-2 is able not only to pull that many cars, but it can push them backward as well. Through a series of turnouts, it goes without a lot of wobbling and without a single derailment. I don't think I could have done that successfully without first adding weight to these cars. Well, that's the upgrade progress I have been able to make so far, but I've still got a lot of work to do on the freight cars. Along with adding weight and working on the trucks and wheels, I've got to repaint some of the cars, re-decal some of them and add graffiti to some of them, and I've got to weather the bodies of all of them. I look forward to the day when all of these cars will move like real freight cars and look like real freight cars. I gotta tell you, I'm having tons of fun doing this. And beyond making these mechanical and cosmetic upgrades, I look forward to the day when I can use these cars in classification operations. I hope you will come along as I do this by subscribing to this channel if you haven't done it yet. Now I invite you to go to my videos page where you will find more than 300 other videos to watch. I will put a link to it down below. Or you can go directly to these videos over here just by clicking on them. Thanks for letting me share the amazing hobby of model railroading with you. I'm Roy Smith. Until next time, happy railroading.